Okay, so how we can set up the functionality with Redux Toolkit. So if you remember previously, we need to set up the action, we need to dispatch, and then we always needed to return a new state, and then just, of course, copy the values and all that. Now, this is not the case with Redux Toolkit. In fact, it's much easier. And the way we can do that, we simply go with a reducers property in the slice. And again, key value pair. So in my case, I'm going to call this clear cart. That's going to be the name of my reducer over here. Now, as a parameter, this function gets a state. And notice how we don't have to return anything. I don't have to return the new state and always avoid the mutation. Basically, remember with use reducer, we always needed to return a new state. We don't have to do that right now. Why? Because when we installed Redux Toolkit, we also installed immer library, which behind the scenes does all the heavy lifting. So in our case, we can modify the state or mutate the state directly. And yes, you're not hallucinating. This is clearly the code that mutates the state. The reason we can write such code is because Redux Toolkit comes with immer library. Now, it's also really cool that if we take a look at cart slice, something that we're logging right now in the cart slice.js, we have actions. And the moment we create that reducer, we'll be able to see the action created by the name of yes, exactly the same, clear cart. And what that means is that we don't need this code. Again, remember with use reducer, we set up the action, we set it equal to string, and we didn't set up the action creator per se when we used use reducer. But the idea would be that we actually set up a function that returns that type. So we don't need to run around with this variable. Basically have right away a function, and optionally we can also pass in the payload. Now, why am I saying this? Because now we can directly use this clear cart. We don't need to set up the variable. We don't need to create the function. Essentially, it's already provided for us. And then in order to invoke it, we need to get another hook from the React Redux. And this is use dispatch. So remember, with use reducer, we use dispatch. In this case, we right away get it. If we invoke use dispatch, and then we invoke dispatch, so whatever we're getting back from here, and we just pass in action creator. So yes, we do need to import clear cart. That's why we're exporting over here. Notice export const and then named import, or I'm sorry, named export. And then we just need to use it. And don't worry if some of this seems confusing at this point. It will make total sense once we complete the entire setup. So first, I want to navigate to cart slice. And like I said, we want to start over here by setting up that reducer, the one that is going to clear the cart. So let's go here with reducers, and it's going to be an object. Inside of it, we just need to come up with name for our reducer. In our case, it's going to be clear cart. It's going to be a function that gets the access to the state. Now, also we'll have access to the payload. Basically, let's say we want to pass in the ID, something we'll do a little bit later, which is going to be a second parameter. For now, we don't need to worry about it. I'll set it up as a arrow function. And like I said, I know I keep repeating this, but we can mutate the state directly because behind the scenes, immer takes care of that. So we can go here with state. Then what is the value here? It is cart items. What do I want to do? I want to set it equal to an empty array. That's it. That's all I want to do. And now let's go to the cart slice. Let's uncomment the log. And we'll see in the console that yes, we have name and all that. But now in the actions, we have a function. We have action creator by the name of clear cart. And again, the beauty in this is the fact that we don't need to set up anything manually as far as the action creator. We right away get it by default. And the only thing we want to do is pass in the clear cart function into whatever we're getting back from dispatch. So use dispatch and then pass it in. So let's go back to the slice. And instead of logging, which as a side note, I'll comment this out, we want to go with export const. So all of these will be named. And yes, we'll add more functions, of course, over here. And let's go with clear cart. And now where are we looking? We're looking in the cart slice dot actions. So let's set it equal to cart slice dot and actions. So from that object, we export this. And now we just need to decide, well, in which component we're going to use it. Of course, in our case, that will be cart container. Yes, eventually we'll set up the modal. So we will move that functionality from the cart container to the modal. But for now, let's just see how we can invoke it in here. So let's say use dispatch. That's the first one, then comma. And below or above, it doesn't really matter. We want to go with that use dispatch. So const, this is going to be equal to dispatch. Whatever we get back, use dispatch, invoke. We don't need to pass anything in. Then let's keep on scrolling, keep on scrolling. This is where we have our button. And now we do want to pass in the arrow function because, of course, I don't want to invoke this immediately. I only want to invoke it when we click on a button. So let's say here on click. Then let's pass in the arrow function. And we'll say that every time we'll click on a button, we'll dispatch an action. And in here, let's pass in that clear cart. Again, the beauty here is that we don't need to do all of that manual labor. We just pass in the function that, as a side note, I didn't import. So let me go back. We want to go with clear cart, which is coming from the cart slice. Now let me save it. And in here, it says unknown event handler because I probably did some, oh yeah, this is not right. And once we click, this is what we'll see. Now, we're not displaying this one, the condition, simply because we're not controlling the amount yet. Don't worry. All of that is coming up. For time being, we are just displaying the heading 2 with your bag here and the total. Basically, since we removed all of the items, since it's set equal to an empty array, we just have the your bag and the total. And with this in place, now we can set up rest of the reducers.